Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Please Welcome, brought to you by Heroic Productions. This is a platform where we bring you face to face with professionals changing the landscape of the corporate world. I'm McKenna LaFave, and we want to thank you for joining us. Today, I'm very excited because we have with us event extraordinaire Hannah Hegman. Hannah is a seasoned event professional with over a decade of experience specializing in nonprofit fundraising and creative event execution. Currently, Hannah is the director of experience at Do Good Events, and she's spent nearly 8 years enhancing community connections and elevating brands through expertly planned and executed events. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Hannah Hegman.
Yay, cue a blast track, right? Oh, it was a hefty intro for a very beautiful career. It's great to see you again. I just saw you at your Raise and Rage event for Do Good Events. We was incredible. Best year yet. It was really great. I love the Lego theme too.
That was so fun. It was an inspiration in the middle of last year when we were all trying to piece all the events together, figure out how does this all work. And we came across this Legos theme. And what's been so funny in 2025, we already have 3 other clients who have started talking about maybe we should do a Lego theme at our event. And so maybe we started a trend. We'll see.
Oh my gosh, amazing. And it's so funny. So I have like a couple nephews and nieces, and I like Legos are always on the Christmas list for them. And Lego really does have like such a chokehold on the market, that's what we always say. So I'm like, it's just like a fun theme and everybody like gets it. And Lego World here in Minneapolis, that it was so fun. So thank you so much for having.
Well, and I should also mention to keep trademark happy. It's not Legos. Sting Legos. Yes.
We appreciate your bed professional, by the way.
You shared some incredible insights at Raise and Arrange as well. And so it was so fun for you to be able to join us there.
It was a really fun day. So obviously your background and career has been an event. So I kind of wanted to start at the beginning of your career journey and ask what inspired your passion for event planning, and then like especially in the nonprofit sector, because it is such a special sector that is near and dear to our hearts. We love a gala. So kind of what got you involved there?
Yeah. I think the idea of service and volunteerism has always been a part of my life. And nonprofit work has been dear to me. I was an AmeriCorps member out of college, and I worked with 80 nonprofits in a year. And, really it's always been the center of me. I didn't know event planning was a career when I went into the career force. I came from a very small town. I thought event planning meant planning weddings, and that's what I thought it was. I actually ended up working with a small nonprofit. I was running their volunteer program and started to get involved with their gala. And after a couple of years, I realized this is where I'm meant to be. I love the heartbeat of events. I love how it brings people together. I love all the complications of an event, like all of that. So I had met Kelsey Beach for coffee one day, and I walked out the door and I called my husband. I go, I'm going to work for her. And a year later I was, and here I am. 8 years later, I Do Good Events.
Manifestation at its finest. I love that. And I love the tidbit because I do feel like event planners are problem solvers. You have to be.
It can kind of thrive in that a little. Like, give me the challenge. What can I do?
Yes. So could you share, speaking of problems, could you share a defining moment in your career where you felt like your work made a significant impact?
Yeah. It's really interesting working with nonprofits. I try to be really careful not to take any credit for the work that nonprofit does.
Yeah.
So that big impact is not about all the dollars that we raised, or to me, it comes back to like having that servant heart and being able to serve our clients in a way. And I will never forget the moments of a client hugging me at the end of the night with like the most authentic embrace, being like, I could not have done this without you. And that's what I'm like, that's why I do what I do, because it helps to make our clients show up better in their jobs. It allows them to build deeper relationships. And I get so much joy if I'm like, ooh, I know what kind of drink they want at the happy hour, or, like those little details. So those are the impactful moments when I look back and I realize that the work that I did that day made my client have a better experience. Because events aren't everybody's jam either. No. And they're totally mine. I'm energized. I think it's fun. But we all know the client who's like, this is the worst day of my year. They don't want to eat at the event. This is not their jam. Yeah. So to try to bring joy into that process. So those, I mean, I don't have like a lot of specific moments other than just like those authentic hugs. I'm totally a hugger. So just that real connection and being able to see that I made somebody's day a little bit easier.
Awesome. So obviously at Do Good, you guys do a ton of events. You have a ton of clients. What strategies have you implemented to elevate the attendee experience? I know every event is different, every client is different, but what strategies do you implement kind of across the board to make sure every event is amazing?
Yeah. I think one of the things we're trying to do is to push people out of their comfort zones a little bit, right? If it's a gala that's been doing a gala for 27 years, they got the formula that works. Beautiful. But how can we like tweak it and have a little bit more fun or just push them slightly? And it's little things like last year we had a couple of events where instead of drink tickets, we gave out little resin ducks and then people turned the duck in at the bar. And like, that's so simple and such a simple little twist. But that was what was talked about. Afterwards in the community debriefs, they're like, the little ducks were fantastic. That didn't change anything about how that nonprofit raised funds, but changed the guest experience. So I think across the board is looking at our events and being like, where can we get a little bit more creative? Where can we have a little more fun and those kind of things? And then I think it's also reminding our clients that events are not just event day, it's leading up to it. Particularly newer, smaller nonprofits that are getting into events is wrapping the concept that the event started 9 months before the event. Those relationships had to be built. And so we've been trying to work with that too. Like it can't just happen in the room.
Yes. Amazing. How do you approach balancing that creativity like the ducks and the logistical precision when it comes to event execution?
Mm-hmm. At first and foremost, it's always casting a vision and understanding that we're all in it together. Yeah, all going for the same goals. And so our first meeting with any event is, what are the goals of this event? And then we tell everyone if we're going through the decision-making process and we have a disagreement, whether it's between us or between committee members, it's going back to the goals. And being like, does this achieve the goal? Without that, we can't do anything. And then once a vision is casted, I have a client once who told me, she goes, you never tell us no. You always say, I will figure it out. And even if the answer is not exactly what we asked for, you find something that reached that bottom line of what we're trying to do. And so it's this idea of like, you know, how do I execute that? You asked me to put a forklift on the roof. I can't do that. Can you tell me why you want a forklift? It was because they wanted to hang a great big sign. Great. I can find a better way to hang sign there, right? It's things like that where let us cast a vision big and bold, out of budget, out of all the things, and then we bring it back and go, how do we execute this? And then the third is just being ready to, I dare say, pivot. You do heck up. So I'm like, I'm not gonna say it no, but it's the idea that plans have to change. They're going to change, whether it's weather or even just a staffing change and a new executive director came in with a new vision and you have to change it. And that's okay. And being ready and being nimble and not let that shake you too much.
And that's big because people don't like change.
Oh, I didn't even like change, but like you gotta deal with it.
Yes, I love that. Obviously we are an AV production company, so I have to ask, how important is the role of AV production when it comes to events?
Yeah. Well, I will tell all the viewers, I am not saying this just because I'm being interviewed by you all right now. It is absolutely critical. When you come down to it, if your audience cannot hear what you're trying to say from stage, doesn't matter how good your script writing was, they can't hear it. Yeah. And they're distracted by that. Or if it's not the right sound distribution and this side can't hear, then they're having their conversations and they're ignoring it and being a distraction in the room. And the quality of that production and the quality of the team on site directly reflects your brand. And time again, I have found that the right AV team with the right people in the room can calm the nerves of any person on the stage, right? And that's where I have a huge, like, we must do sound checks. I know not everybody loves a sound check, but I want every person up on that stage. And if nothing else, it's because we want to give them some cues, make them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one thing, and I know your team does exceptionally well. We've had the opportunity to work together with very novice MCs and be able to guide them in some do's and don'ts of how do you make this work. And then the other thing is I oftentimes, budgets are really tight. And especially now, I think we have to be incredibly mindful of everything that's going on in the political landscapes and economic landscapes, that every one of our nonprofits are asking us to find ways to cut budget. Yep. AV is not the spot to do it. Or if it is, I will just, so all of my friends out there, talk to the AV team and say, I need to cut this much. You tell us where we can do that cut because you all know better. So I trust you a lot, but budgets are tight, but this is not the spot that we want to make cuts.
Yeah, and I think too, something that I know we have done, and I'm sure a lot of suppliers should do this, is like good, better, best options.
Yes. Yep.
It's like, this is what you want, this is what we can do it for, or we can take it to this level, but this is what it's going to cost you. I think a lot of definitely clients really respect that, and then can kind of see the value add in what they're getting for the cost.
Yes.
So I know that's something that people have said they appreciate.
Yes.
So I would say, ask any of your suppliers, like, what are my good, better, best options?
Yes. Or if I have to remove something, what am I losing? Yeah, I think that's the other thing, especially if it's a year-over-year event and they go, okay, I had less budget this year. It's saying, remember that lighting feature? You won't have that anymore. Because we all know the equipment lists don't make sense to the person who has never read an equipment list before. And sometimes they don't even understand what they're saying yes to. Myself included, multiple times I have gone to partners like yourself and I'm like, dumb it down for me. Help me exactly understand what does the lumens of this thing mean. But that's why we work with partners like yourselves, and I'm not the expert in that area. But I think it is, yes, that good, better, best, or tell me if I make this cut, what am I going to?
Yeah. I love that. What are the key metrics you use to measure the success of an event, particularly for nonprofits? Obviously, amount of money raised is an indicator, but I know that there's got to be more than that.
Absolutely. And every nonprofit has their own indicators, right? And oftentimes nonprofit events kind of fall in a couple categories. We have fundraising events, which are just the galas, and that's where, yes, the dollars raised is the number one goal. I also like to call them friend raisers. Friend raisers often don't have an ask involved, but it's a nonprofit event that is bringing a community together. Oftentimes these are happening ahead of a gala a few months to help build those relationships. And so one is understanding, is this a fundraiser or a friend raiser? That will help to establish our goals. But even if it is a fundraiser, I love to work with our committees to say, what is a non-dollar goal? Is it you want to shake the hands of 20 people in the room that night? Is it you want to make sure you connect with the table host of every table? Like, what are some of those things that we can also really help to facilitate and make sure it happens? I don't have a ton of control over the dollars in the room, right? We can put all the strategies in place, and sometimes we still won't hit the mark. But I can make sure you shook the hand of 20 people, or that you met this person, or I want to make sure that I get to enjoy the after party, or I don't want to miss the toast at the beginning of the event, right? Those are the things that I also like to glean from the client and say, how would you find that to be successful? And then I think the other thing is donor engagement and that survey at the end. We're really big about surveying our donors, so survey the attendees, and we want to hear the feedback, good, bad, and other. We know you're never going to please 100% of people in the room. Negative feedback should be expected. But let's figure out, what does that mean? How does that maybe adjust your event? And then for us is a big thing about just the client relationship. Being able to have mutual partnership, mutual ownership in the event. As much as you guys may not believe it, like, we care about your event probably as much as you do. I've set up many nights very, very late because it has to be perfect. So just understanding that like we care too and making sure that that's all brought forward.
I love that. What are your non-money related goals? That's great. Let's talk about some challenges. So, can you describe a particularly challenging event that you managed and how you overcame obstacles to achieve success? Which I'm sure this happens a lot.
Oh yeah, like there's an obstacle with every event, right? But when we were talking about this question, immediately came to mind the opening of the Treetop Trail at the Minnesota Zoo last summer.
Yes, big dog trail.
So, like one of the coolest projects in our state. And so if anyone doesn't know, it's at the Minnesota Zoo, the old tram, track, whatever that like the as we were all kids in the air riding this thing. So it's 32 feet in the air, and now it is the longest elevated walking trail in the world. Like, and it's in Minnesota, and that's so cool. So crazy. I had the opportunity to be part of that opening weekend. And what that consisted of was not only public facing events, we had 2 evenings of events, and we had some other little like press conferences and the ribbon cutting and all these things in the middle of it. And it all had to flow with a public open zoo. But in our first opening night, we had 20 ribbon cuttings in under an hour, and they were all at different parts around. So we had to have teams of like catering and photography that would bring the toast and take the picture and move them along. And so there was a lot of stakeholders involved in this and trying to create a really good experience for over 200 people all at the same time. It was a challenge, but so much fun. Also, the construction was still happening. We didn't actually even get on the trail until like 2 weeks before the event was happening. So just so many things. And it was an incredible team that came together that kept nimble. We talked about that before of like, yes, things are going to change. And we also kind of had to just trust the process of, no, we've never done this before. Oftentimes a client will say, well, have you ever done that? No, but that doesn't mean this won't work. Like, I've thought through it and I'm confident it's going to work. And that's kind of what this event was I have never done an event like this, but I'm confident this is going to work. And it did. And that was really cool.
Amazing. I know you guys work a lot with the zoo, and our zoo does some really cool events and cool stuff. And we had the honor of working on Beastly Bash in 2024, which is a super amazing gala. So yeah. So something that I have just heard of, don't know how, but ROR, return on relationships. So I think in the events industry, relationship building is really important. So I think it's a great time to ask, how do you foster strong relationships with clients, vendors, and your team members to ensure seamless event execution?
I think first and foremost is like real talk conversations. Like we have business talk, and then there's the, okay, but really let's get down to this. How's this going to happen? Whether this is with a client that, yep, we got onto that committee meeting and now let's real talk what happened in that committee meeting and what are the next steps. Or if it's with somebody like yourself where we're working together and we've got a challenging event and a challenging client and we're driving together towards that client and figuring it out. But then behind the scenes, we're going, okay, but really how are we? So I think it's that real talk conversations of like, there is that time to have the agended professional conversations. And then there's the time to just peel back the layers, be human. It's actually one of my favorite things that has come out of pandemic is that so many of us are working from home with kids and animals and all this stuff. There's a lot more grace to just be human. And I think those kind of conversations are truly how we make connections. So I think those real talk conversations, and then that just remembering like we are all on the same team.
Yes.
Like in the end, we all want an exceptional event. In the end, we all want our bills to get paid, right? Like, like it's like my role is very interesting because I have these clients and then I have all of our service partner relationships. And I'm like, I want the best for everybody. I truly do. And sometimes we have to be the middleman and all of that. And truly just trying to, one of our core values is be good partners. And that is to clients, to service partners, and to our team. Event planning is a tough job. And we've got an internal team that's growing. And being able to be like, I will always be there for you. You can text me at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. and say, I have a problem. I'm like, I'm there. I got you. And that's really important, I think.
Amazing. I love that. What advice would you give to someone looking to build a career in event planning? I know it's not for everyone.
Yes. Well, first and foremost, let's make sure you understand that event planning is not just picking up pretty linens. It's not just planning a big party floral. Yeah, like if you loved planning baby showers and birthday parties, like that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a fantastic event planner. And you might be, but like there's so many folks, young folks that I talk to that are like, I love planning parties. And that's a great foundation to find your passion. Do you love a spreadsheet?
Because the vet planner's gotta love a spreadsheet, like a good. You don't have to be techie, but you gotta love a spreadsheet.
But so I think that's like a big part of it is starting to learn what the industry really is. What does that job actually entail? And you get that by getting boots on the ground at events, is go to as many events as you possibly can and not just go and have fun. Like take notes. What are you seeing? What are the people doing that are working the event? Like my awareness of a tech table changed once I got into the event world because y'all are really good at like hiding behind the little black curtains. It's amazing what's going on. And so I think if you want to be in events, go to events and look for how that event is being executed and pay attention to those roles and where do you want to be? Because I think that's the other thing. A lot of folks maybe start saying they want to be an event planner. It's maybe that they want to be in the events industry, but you just haven't found the right spot yet. And then like intern shadow. We love when we have folks that want to come shadow us at an event and see what it's like. And so that's always the doors open. So asking questions and trying to get some behind the scenes is good too.
Also, shadow can everybody.
Yeah, come on.
All right, let's talk about the future for a little bit. What emerging trends in the event industry excite you? How do you see them shaping the future of event planning?
Yeah. We've been talking a lot about how 2024 finally felt like the first year that we weren't surviving pandemic or reflecting on pandemic, right? Like it was just finally, yeah, normal life, let's plan forward. So that was really exciting as the conversations that we can start having about events have a longer strategy plan. We're not thinking about, well, whether or not that event's actually going to get to happen.
Yeah.
We can start talking about multi-year strategies. And I'm very excited about that because I think that's important. People are willing to be a little bit more creative. They're willing to take a little bit more risks. More and more events are coming back, right? They're coming back, they're reinvigorating, they're changing. So it's also challenging us to stay competitive in the landscape of events, right? And that is exciting. With that has become new businesses as well, like small businesses that are supporting events with new lighting features and decor features and all these. And that's really cool. I love meeting all like the new, like, I just started this business. I think it's so cool. How can we integrate? Because the Minnesota events industry is very small. When you boil it down, we all know each other in some way, shape, or form. And so like getting them into that industry is really exciting. I think it pushes all of us to just get more creative too.
Yes, I love that. Where do you see your career and the events and industry headed in the next 5 years?
Yeah. I think the Minnesota event industry is underrated and we are dynamic and ready to explode. Like that's truly where I think that we're positioning ourselves that way, right? As you look at, is it the junior hockey? I'm not going to get the right word. They're coming here. We won like a big bid for the junior hockey tournaments to come here in
Amazing.
in like December, and the Special Olympics U.S. Games is here next July, and people are starting to see Minnesota as a destination again and see us for everything that this industry can offer as well. And so I'm excited about that in our industry of not only our local homegrown events, but bringing in some national exposure to how incredible this state is. We are excited to continue to see nonprofits to grow and expand. There has been some rumblings of whether or not events are worth it. And we're like, yes,
You're worth it.
not even just because I'm like, that's my job. I could not imagine a world without events. Like,
Yeah.
we need them. You need them to create connections. And so we're kind of going to be on that high horse for a while of like, no, events should not be going away. and we're ready for it. Do good. We've been hiring, so we've almost doubled our team in the last 24 months. And we are excited for the growth, and we're ready for it, and ready for the big events that are coming and the small events. Like, that's what's cool about a growing team, is being able to say yes to the multi-gate conferences and 1,000-person galas, but then also being able to say yes to that event that just needs an on-site event manager or support with name tags, right? Like, there's little things that make events great too. And by expanding our team, we get to do that. And I'm excited to help grow and manage that team.
Good for you. Amazing. Yeah, I think events are back. I keep saying that. I mean, they have been back, but we're seeing too, I feel like after COVID, the time to start an event versus the event date got so small. Oh my goodness, yes. But now we are seeing that people are booking, a year, 2 years in advance, and that hadn't been happening the past few years.
I'm really jealous of your year to 2 year mark. Can I get something? I'm living in like the 6 to 9 month realm still.
It's few clients, but it's just nice to know that they plan to keep this annual event or biannual or what have it, and they're like, we know in 2026 we're gonna have this event too. Yeah, and like that's a good feeling for the rest of us working on.
Yes, it's that comfortability of committing to a strategy and the following year, right? It's because before it was like, well, I don't know, we'll see how the fundraising goes this year. Yes, that mentality has changed, that even if fundraising is down, we're going to stick with this because it's important. And so that's been really fun.
Yes, I completely agree. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Hannah. I know we had to reschedule this a couple times because winter in Minnesota brings illness.
Say those illnesses. Wash your beans, people.
Seriously. But I'm so glad we got to do this today. After a fabulous Raise and Arrange. I can't wait for next year. I hope he already has that on the books.
We had a save the date. Oh gosh, now you're putting us. It's the Thursday, January 15th, I believe it is.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, I thought 12 months in advance. Yeah, well, I guess 11 now. It is February. I forgot it's February this week, you guys. Anyway, thank you so much for spending time with us today, Hannah. We appreciate you and all event planners like you. As we know, it is such a big and important job. We really respect all that you do here at Heroic. And to our audience, thank you so much for joining us as well.